Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I finally watched the final and most recent, at least at this current point, final and most recent Silent Night, Deadly Night flick. This is the remake from 2012, just called Silent Night. It is directed by Stephen C. Miller. I don't know anything else he did. I didn't really look into him. But this is very clearly a remake made by an actual fan of the franchise, particularly the first two movies. There's a lot of references to those first two movies. Not so much the other ones, as far as I can tell. You might have a little thing here or there dropped in, but Silent Night came out like 20 years after the fifth movie called The Toy Maker, which I just reviewed recently as well. I've been working my way through the series this month, kind of a couple of films every week. And I gotta tell you, I had a blast watching this one this time around, but I gotta tell you, this time around, this is the second time I've watched this. I don't know if it's because I wasn't hanging out with my mom, who was also a big horror fan. We watch a lot of slashers and stuff together. I was watching this by myself at my own house this time. First time I've ever had my own house for a Christmas. And I was watching this, and I gotta admit, I didn't have as much fun this time around as I did the first time I watched it with my mom. And we had a blast with it that time. Some movies are like that with me. Some movies are just better watching them with another person. And this is one of those films, I think. So this time around, I didn't really have as much fun as I had with some of the other films in the franchise. It's a great flick. It's a great remake. It's one of the best out of the franchise, surprisingly being the sixth entry in the series. But I do absolutely enjoy it. It's a great, well-made flick. It does carry on this little bit of a straight-to-video feel, at least in modern day, which is kind of just carrying on the spirit of the last three movies in the franchise. Should have been the last four, because Part 2 was pretty horrible. So, overall, what is this flick about? It is not like a complete overall remake. I consider it more of another entry in this series. I think it should have just been called Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 6, or just 6, whatever. Because very much like 4 and 5 and kind of 3, they don't really have much to do with the earlier two films being involved around, well, I guess the third film kind of does, but it's so weird, not really, about being focused on this killer Santa motif. It's not really entirely focused on that. It goes back to that, but it's not like our main character's name is Billy, the villain of the flick. In this film, you basically have a main character we followed that's a deputy, a young woman. She recently either had a breakup or somebody died, something like that. I don't really know if it ever cleared that up, but this is her first Christmas without her significant other boyfriend guy. I don't know what he was. I'm assuming he was a husband or something. I don't know. But she spends a lot of time with her family, and this particular Christmas Eve, a killer Santa Claus man is running around killing citizens just randomly. There's really no motive behind him at first, at least. And it takes a while to get there to that point. That's pretty cool, too. It gives you something to kind of wonder about as the film goes on. He goes on a brutal, just completely brutal bloody massacre. It's fantastic. If you're a gore hound as a slasher fan, you will love this flick. It has so much great gore, so many great effects. That will keep you holding on to this flick because it's so much fun in that regard. Now, this second time around, I do think a little bit of that got a little bit older, but there's some great stuff in here. There's some great throwbacks to, like I said, the first and second film, whether it be a certain type of kill or using an axe as a weapon. This villain's not named Billy, but this killer Santa Claus is fun. He's scary. He's crazy. One of my favorite things about this particular Santa Claus, by the way, I had heard about this flick for the first time back when Hollywood Video was still around. I remember looking at a paper before I saw any of these Silent Night, Deadly Night films, except for Part 2. I had seen Part 2 a few years before this time. But when this was coming out on DVD, I remember seeing the ad in the Hollywood Video paper advertisements for what was coming out recently. And I remember seeing this, and I was like, I wonder what that is. And I looked it up online, and it was a remake of the original flick that I hadn't seen up to that point. And I kind of am sad that I missed out on this. I would have loved this when I was a kid or a teen or whatever, when I was into slashers so heavily. I'm more into like art house scary horror, like Antrim, Eraserhead, stuff like that. I would have loved this flick when I was younger. I wish I had seen it when I was younger too, in 2012. Let's see, that would have been my 11th grade year at high school. So I just barely would have been in that group that would have enjoyed the crap out of this. I think one of the best things about this flick for me, for Santa Claus, is that he's not just a guy that's gone nuts in a Santa Claus suit. He's actually a guy that took like one of those Sweet Alice masks and just like cut off the mouth part and then like glued a beard to it. And he walks around in a Santa Claus outfit like that. He has like black makeup around his eyes and around the eyes of the mask too. So he walks around like that. and you really can't tell his identity. He's actually kind of threatening. He looks like this cover, you know, with the black eyes. It looks scary. It's genuinely cool. I remember seeing this cover back in the day and thinking, that's a really sick-looking cover for a Santa Claus killer. It wasn't like an average-looking Santa Claus like that Goldberg Santa sleigh that I haven't seen before. And it looks like a cool flick. It just, that particular version of Santa in that movie looks like a typical, like, Tim Allen type of Santa Claus. Which is cool, which is unique. But this one is genuinely a scary fellow. And we mostly follow this deputy trying to help solve out these crimes. Of course, the sheriff of the town or whatever is Malcolm McDowell, of course, from Halloween, Clockwork Orange, great actor. He's playing like a douchebag boss here. Apparently, the person that was going to fill in for our main character's shift on Christmas Eve, he's gone missing. The audience knows what happened to this guy because he's pretty much brutalized in the prologue of the film, and a great reference back to Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. But this guy's been missing since like Thursday, so no one knows where he is. So the deputy that we follow, the main character girl, she gets told by her boss, Malcolm McDowell, no, you have to work today. We have to figure out where this guy is. You need to work your shift. We need coverage. And so even though she had the day off, she has that kind of boss. She has to go in. And then these killings start up. She has to investigate and get involved there. And there's a lot of kind of investigating certain suspects, people that we may or may not think is the actual killer. And it's not a murder mystery in that way. It's like we just suspect every once in a while there's a couple of different people playing Santa Claus in the town for like parades and stuff. We kind of wonder if those two different guys might be involved or if there's a different person involved. We don't really know until the film progresses. I don't want to tell you too much. But it's a fun flick. It's very over the top, very wild. It's very zany. It has a lot of gore. Like I said, it's my favorite part of the flick. But this time around, watching it by myself, if I had watched this for the first time by myself, I think I would have been shocked by how gory it was in the best possible way, because I love flicks that are like that. If you're going to make something like Terrifier when it comes to slashers, or the newer Halloween flicks. Make it over the top, insane gory to really hold my interest. Now, that doesn't always age well. Like I said, it's been a few years since I've watched this movie. I would say that I did enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time because of the surprise of the insanity of the gore in that movie. But even so, I think it's one of the best made in the series. There's a lot of like neon lighting in here, reds and blues and stuff. It's not like one of these 80s throwback type of things, but in spirit it is. In spirit it feels like an 80s throwback. It feels like a better version of the original movie in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. Of course, you guys know that if you've been following my reviews. Not a huge fan of that original movie. I'm just not. I think it's about as bland and average as it gets for a slasher flick, even from the 80s. I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. But I think this one's a better version in modern day of that. Of course, the 2000s and early 2010s, whatever, were the era for remakes. And even now we've had recent things like Child's Play, for example. We have a Leatherface show coming out from Netflix, of all things, or a movie, or whatever that is. We have a lot of remakes still coming out. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I think it was a blast. It had so much going for it. It was fun. It was crazy. It has a lot to be enjoyed in it. It's not perfect by any means, but I think it's a really, really, really solid flick for what it's going for. I do think that my ranking of movies has changed a little bit. I will be doing a ranking video immediately after this video and uploading it immediately after this one. So, I'm going to rank all 6 of the Silent Night, Deadly Night flicks, and I'll tell you right now, this one actually dropped a little bit for me. So I hope you'll check out that ranking video just to see what my favorite might actually be, because I've said in previous videos this was going to be my favorite, hands down. I don't know. It doesn't really feel like it anymore. We'll see. But for now, that's pretty much my review on Silent Night. I think it's overall a well-made flick. I think the acting is pretty good across the board from everybody. There's not a ton of gratuitous nudity in this like there is in the original one, which bothers me quite a bit. But there's throwback kills. Linnea Quigley has a great reference for here. Not like a cameo or anything as far as I know. I don't think I noticed her anywhere in the film, but there's a great throwback to her character from the first film. There's some great stuff in here. Really, really cool, impressive stuff that I enjoyed a lot. And I recommend the flick based on that alone, especially if you're a fan of the series or a fan of at least the original movie or the original 2 or whatever. It has some humor in here that works really well. It's just a very well-made flick. And like I said, Stephen Miller, you can tell, is a fan of this series, of those original 2 flicks at least. He clearly has a fandom feel to this movie. And it's odd to me that he got this job. I've seen like one other movie I think of his called First Kill with Hayden Christensen and Bruce Willis. I think he's the one that made that. And it wasn't that great. It was pretty bland. But I was surprised by how much I liked the cop aspect of this, how much I liked following a deputy in this movie. The look of it reminds me a lot of an old Val Kilmer movie from around 2010, 2009. I cannot remember what it's called. I have it in my collection. I think it's called The Traveler. Might be the newer title of it. I don't know. But something like that. Anyway, Silent Night, the 2012 remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night. Is it worth your watch? I think so. Is it amazing? It's not amazing. Is it a better film than most of the series, if not the whole series? Yeah, overall, well, in the filmmaking aspect, yes. I personally love Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker. I recently reviewed that like yesterday. I love that flick. It feels more low budget than you would expect. This feels straight to video. I wouldn't say low budget, but straight to video, and some of the directing choices and aspects and whatnot. Some of the aesthetic feels a little bit like that. Certain shots, that kind of thing. There are some budget restraints in this flick that make it a little uneven, I would say. But it's still a great, well-made movie. I really enjoyed this. I recommend it to all horror fans. I think everybody should start with the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake over top of the original. If you're a fan of this and of the series and you've kind of put off watching this remake, you should check it out. It's got some stuff in here I think you'll enjoy if you're especially a gore hound. A lot of slasher fans are like myself about that. So anyway, would I recommend this? Absolutely. What would I rate Silent Night? On a 5-star basis, usually 5 being most enjoyable, for my experience at least, and 1 being just completely unwatchable, nothing I like is in this at all, or nothing about it I like, or anything like that. If I had to rate this, I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's very well made, very enjoyable. I like the neon aspect to it sometimes. The music is actually very clever. There's some really well made score parts to this movie as well. The gore is phenomenal. There's some great memorable kills. Some of the absolute best in the series in total, which this series does not have the best kills. Even with the original movie, there's not the best ones in there. I would say this has the best of the best in the series. I mean that deeply. Anyway, 4 out of 5 stars for me. What do you guys think about the Silent Night remake from 2012? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think it's the best of the series? Is it your favorite? Is it your least favorite? Do you hate it? What do you think about it? I'd love to hear all that down below. I know some fans are going to be disappointed with the lack of a villain named Billy in this movie. And that is what it is. That's debatable amongst the fans. But like I said, I kind of consider this just part 6, or just the 6th film of the series, doing its own little thing in its own little world. It doesn't really need to be a remake. I kind of wonder if it was supposed to be a remake at all. But with some of the references in here, it's got to be. Unless it was just decided halfway through this filming that they were going to make it the remake. Anyway, I really enjoy it. I recommend it. Hopefully you'll stick around for my ranking video immediately after this video. And folks, thank you for watching. God bless you. Merry Christmas. And stick around for that ranking. Yeah. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Goodbye.